Hello, my name's Gavin. This is Genre Books. It's Tuesday, so it's Tag Tuesday. So today's tag is the Rock On Rap Songs book tag. This tag was created by Nicole's Bookish Nook, and I was tagged by Pat at Book Chat with Pat. There are 9 prompts, so let's get to it. Prompt number 1. It's a Hard Knock Life by Jay-Z. A fiction or non-fiction book about an orphanage, poor family, or an orphan. Now this is Victober, and I could have had so many from the Victorian era, but I will not. So no Dickens today. What I'm going to choose is a book I read earlier this year for the Summer of Sport event, and that was The Shortstop by Zane Grey. I think it fulfills 2 of the categories for this prompt. Our hero, Chase Alloway, is a young man who has just quit his job. He's been working at a factory for a number of years since he was a teenager, can't get a rise there, and is basically told take it or leave it. So he leaves it because he was not making enough money to support his mother and his crippled brother. And he has a romantic dream of becoming a baseball star. And through hard work, through application, through a bit of luck, he finally does. So his poor family is no longer poor. The baseball team he plays for also has a mascot. He's like a good luck charm. He is a young orphan who seems to be homeless. So no orphanage, I'm afraid. We just have some poor homeless kid who is he's stunted in his growth, and Chase takes him under his wing. He wants to look out for him, but he's very independent, but eventually gets talked round, and with Chase Alloway's great success, he is able to provide for him as well. It's all very heartwarming and not the normal thing that I'd be reading, but I did enjoy it. Prompt number 2, Walk This Way, Aerosmith featuring Run DMC. A favourite book that blends genres. Again, I'm going to choose something I read this year and something that I read in July for Rocket Summer, and that is The Furies by Keith Roberts. This is the story of massive killer wasps, and massive killer wasps that are released after nuclear testing goes wrong, and there are massive earthquakes across the world. So already we're blending a couple of disasters into 2, but this is a science fiction, this is a horror, this is a survival story. It blends quite a lot, and it is a page turner. Prompt number 3, Just Lose It by Eminem, a book you think is funny or ridiculous in a bad way. It's difficult. This one is difficult because I try to pick books that aren't bad, but you do slip up occasionally, and I was let down by E. Doc Smith. Smith has faults as a writer, but those are usually part of his charm. He's also a pioneer in the space opera field. So if you're reading Skylark or you're reading Lensman, yes, the prose is purple, yes, the battles get more and more outrageous, ridiculous, but there's a charm to it. The book I've chosen that went ridiculous in a bad way was The Galaxy Primes, and is for a very specific reason. Smith was born in the 19th century, right at the back end of the 19th century, but before 1900. This book is written, I think, in the late 60s. And I think the problem with what he does here is, instead of sticking to what he knows best, or instead of pioneering and doing something new, which he has done before, what he instead tries to do is ape the style of contemporary writers in the 1960s. And it's the sexual politics and the repartee between the four main characters which seems to be the issue. It is unconvincing at best, and at worst it's not a great look for a guy who is of pensionable age talking about these young women running around spaceships wearing next to nothing. And it's unfortunate because the actual pseudoscience idea behind the book is not his best, but good enough, but is ruined by the weird relationships he has going on. It hasn't put me off Smith. I have read Skylark since I read the Galaxy Primes, and I will finish the Lensman series too, but that did stop me in my tracks a little. Prompt number 4, Thunderstruck by AC/DC, a book that shocked you in a good or a bad way. Well, I'm going to go for a book that shocked me in a bad way, and I'm going to go non-fiction. Bad Science by Ben Goldacre. This is an expose of the medical and pharmaceutical world, not in a human interest way, but purely really from statistics and the manipulation of statistics. This is about people who are knowingly misrepresenting data in order to line their pockets or worse. And I'd recommend this book to anyone, not just for the medical side of things, but for making you question data that is presented to you. As they say, lies, damned lies, and statistics. Prompt number 5, Welcome to the Jungle, Guns N' Roses. A book about LA, or a book that takes place in or around LA. Well, I've only visited LA once. It was only for one day, and it was a very long time ago, and it didn't feel a very literary place to me. And I don't think I've read too many books that are set in LA. I should imagine probably some of the hard-boiled detective books have been. But I suppose if you think LA, you've got to think Hollywood. And I have read a few books about the film business. So I could have chosen You'll Never Eat Lunch in This Town Again, or Easy Riders, Raging Bulls. But the one I'm going to choose is Robert Evans' The Kid Stays in the Picture. This is an autobiography. It's a little self-selecting and self-serving, so you've got to take that into consideration. But at other times he is quite honest about his shortcomings and honest about what was going on in the business at the time. This is a guy who started as a young actor, didn't really take to acting, or the public didn't really take to him as an actor, and ended up as a producer. And he produced Chinatown, which, in itself is an excellent LA story. He produced The Godfather. So he's got some big films under his belt. He's got a lot of success. It's a book that tells a story of the changing film business. It's a story that has my favourite decade of films in it. This is about the 70s. It's also the story of his relationships. I can't remember if he's married to, or he's certainly living with Annie McGraw from Love Story, a film he also produced. And then she leaves him for Steve McQueen. So there's a lot of Hollywood going on in this book. But there you go. a book about the craziness of Tinseltown. Prompt number 6, Gimme All Your Lovin' by ZZ Top, your favourite romance book, or if you do not read any romance, your favourite couple in any book. Well, I do not read romance. Again, I'm just going to choose a book from this year. And I think this couple, this is quite a romantic story between them. It's The Virginian by Owen Wister, and our title character, the Virginian, I'm not sure we ever learn his name. Someone calls him Jeff, but I'm not sure his name's Jeff. And Molly Stark Wood, who is the local school teacher. It's a long courtship, and for a cowboy, the Virginian is very romantic in his way. But the story is really Molly, who has come to the West from a much larger town. It's a story of her acclimatizing to the West, acclimatizing to the people, and slowly falling in love with the Virginian. The Virginian is good for a lot of things, but yes, the romance seems to be authentic and good there as well. Having not read a lot of romance, I don't really know what I can compare it to. Prompt number 7, Fight for Your Right to Party by the Beastie Boys. A book centered around a celebration, and I'm going to choose a party, and the book is The Party by Robert Coover. It's not about the party. It's about something else. It's many, many years since I've read it, but it is an odd book. There is a party going on. There is a corpse that turns up in the middle of the party, and it's about how they all react and deal with this, or fail to do so. This is the one problem I have with tags. I've already got a big enough TBR. I don't need to add things to my TBRR, my to be reread pile. But I'm going to have to add Gerald's Party to that list because I'm remembering bits about it. I'm not remembering enough about it, and I really want to read it again. Prompt number 8, Firestarter by Prodigy. A book that has fire in the title or has red or orange on the cover. Well, I've got this one, The Face Beside the Fire by Lawrence van der Post, which has fire in the title, has some, but I don't know if that's red or orange on the cover, and has red orangey flowers on the back as well. It's not a romance, but it is a story of relationships. This is possibly my favourite Lawrence van der Post book that I've read so far. I will be doing plenty of videos, I think, on Lawrence van der Post once I've read all the books I've got. I'm playing catch up in November and December because of all the Booktube events. My plan to read one a month has been scuppered or self-destructed. Nobody's fault but mine, but I will have to get back on the horse and finish reading these. But this is just fantastic. Spoiler alert for this prompt. If you don't want to know what happens in American Psycho, just stop watching now. It's the last prompt of the video. If you've read American Psycho, or you never want to read American Psycho ever, then I suppose, well, you could also stop watching the video now. Or you could continue watching. It's only a couple more minutes. Prompt number 9, Humble by Kendrick Lamar. A fiction or non-fiction book that left you stunned by the audacity of the main character or writer. American Psycho by Bret Easton Ellis. And I think probably the audacity of both the main character and the writer. I was about halfway through the book before I twigged. It may be more than halfway through the book. There is a point, I think I'd had some suspicions before. There is a point where Patrick Bateman has just committed some absolute atrocity. But he's nearly been caught by the police. He's running away. He's trying to make his escape. He can hear the sirens behind him. He's about to be caught. And the chapter ends. And in the next chapter, he's talking about the history and discography of Huey Lewis and the News, or someone else. Equally 1980s. And then we are back to the story. Just carrying on his normal life. No mention of what happened with the police chase, with those murders that he had committed. The events depicted in the book are absolutely shocking. The fact that this may just be the result of an unreliable narrator is audacious. Prompt number 10, tag other people. I will do below the line. Thank you to Nicole's Bookish Nook for creating this tag. Thank you to Pat for tagging me, and until next time.